Touch me, and I'll have your badge. Savannah Prescott said it the way someone orders valet service. Flat, entitled. Like the officer was hired help who'd forgotten his place. The bailiff, a man named Torres who'd worked courtrooms for 22 years, just looked at her. He'd heard threats before. This one was different. Not because it was more creative, because she believed it. Judge Frank Caprio looked up from the file. His reading glasses caught the fluorescent light. Miss Prescott, you're in a court of law. That's not how we speak to officers here. Savannah turned toward him slowly. 23 years old, designer heels clicking on the tile floor. Hair pulled back so tight, it looked aggressive. With respect, Your Honor, I don't think you understand who you're dealing with. The courtroom went still. Enlighten me, Caprio said quietly. My mother is Catherine Prescott, Prescott Media Group. My family owns half the advertising contracts in this city, including the ones that fund your court's public outreach programs. She paused for effect. And my lawyer will destroy you if you push this. If you've ever wondered what happens when privilege meets accountability, stay with us. This gets intense. Miss Reyes, the clerk, shifted in her seat and glanced at the case file. Officer Torres stood near the back wall, arms folded. The courtroom had maybe 20 people in it. Half were scrolling their phones. Now, everyone was watching. Caprio set his pen down. Not fast, not slow, just deliberate. Miss Prescott, are you threatening this court? I'm stating facts. My family contributes significantly to this city. I think we both know how this should go. Let's life. Let's life. Let's life. Let's live, and crashin'. Let's live, end quote. Let's live, end quote, end quote. Let's live crashin', end quote. How should it go? Quietly, efficiently, with minimal disruption to everyone's time. Caprio leaned back in his chair. Sit down, Miss Prescott. I'd prefer to stand. That wasn't a request. Savannah's jaw tightened, but she sat. Her attorney, a man in his 50s named Lawrence Chen, stood up smoothly. Your Honor, may I approach? You may not. Sit. Chen zat. Caprio opened the file in front of him and read silently for a moment. The only sound in the courtroom was the hum of the ventilation system and someone's phone buzzing on silent mode. Miss Reyes, please read the charges. Miss Reyes stood. Case number 2, 027TR. 04582. State v. Savannah. Catherine Prescott. Charges include reckless driving, DUI refusal, leaving the scene of an accident, resisting arrest, and verbal assault of an officer. Savannah laughed once. Sharp. This is absurd. Caprio looked at her over his glasses. What's absurd about it? The charges. I didn't leave any scene. I moved my car to a safer location. And I didn't resist anything. I asked for my attorney, which is my right. We'll get to that. Miss Reyes, is there a prior record? Miss Reyes scrolled on her tablet. Yes, Your Honor. 2 citations. Both dismissed. First was September 2026, speeding in a school zone. Second was February 2027, failure to yield to emergency vehicle. Caprio wrote something down. Both dismissed. On what grounds? Administrative discretion. No formal documentation provided. Savannah leaned toward her attorney and whispered something. Chen nodded but didn't respond. Officer Garcia, Caprio said. Please, step forward. A woman in uniform walked to the witness stand. Mid-30s, composed. The kind of person who'd seen enough not to get rattled easily. Officer Garcia, tell us what happened on the evening of April 14th. Garcia nodded. I was on patrol near Thayer Street around 11:47 p.m. I observed a black Tesla Model S weaving between lanes, excessive speed, failure to signal. I activated my lights and initiated a traffic stop. Did the vehicle stop? Not immediately. The driver continued for approximately 4 blocks before pulling into a parking garage. Savannah interrupted. Because I was looking for somewhere safe and well lit. That's recommended for women driving alone at night. Caprio raised a hand. Miss Prescott, you'll have your turn. Officer Garcia, continue. When I approached the vehicle, I smelled alcohol. The driver's speech was slurred. I asked her to step out of the car. She refused. I asked her to submit to a field sobriety test. She refused. I informed her that refusal would result in automatic license suspension. She said, Garcia checked her notes. Do you know who my mother is? Call your supervisor. You're making a mistake. Savannah's face stayed neutral, but her fingers tapped the table. That's not what I said. What did you say? Caprio asked. I said I wanted to contact my lawyer before submitting to any tests. That's my constitutional right. Caprio turned back to Garcia. Did she request an attorney? She did. After I informed her of the consequences of refusal, but she didn't request one before refusing the test. What happened next? I informed her she was under arrest for suspicion of DUI and refusal to submit to testing. She became verbally aggressive. She told me, Garcia read directly from her report. You're going to regret this. My family will bury you. I'll make sure you're directing traffic in a parking lot for the rest of your career. The courtroom absorbed that in silence. Caprio looked at Savannah. Did you say that? I was frightened. A police officer was threatening me. She was arresting you unlawfully. That's for this court to decide. Officer Garcia, what happened after you attempted the arrest? She pulled away from me twice. She got back in her vehicle and attempted to close the door. I prevented her from leaving. Backup arrived. We successfully detained her. She continued verbal threats during transport. Tell us where you're watching from. If you think this is going somewhere she didn't expect. Caprio turned to Miss Reyes. Do we have dashcam footage? Yes, Your Honor. Play it. The monitor on the wall flickered to life. Dashcam footage. April 14th, 2027. 11:51 p.m. The video showed a black Tesla weaving slightly, crossing the center line once. Garcia's cruiser pulled behind it, lights flashing. The Tesla didn't stop. 4 blocks later, it pulled into a parking garage. Garcia approached the driver's window. Audio crackled. License and registration, please. Why did you pull me over? You were weaving between lanes and speeding. I need to see your license. Pause. I wasn't speeding. Ma'am, I clocked you at 52 inches, a 25 zone. License, please. This is harassment. Garcia, I can smell alcohol. Have you been drinking tonight? I had 1 glass of wine at dinner. That's not illegal. I need you to step out of the vehicle. I'm not doing that. Ma'am, that's not optional. Please, step out. I want my lawyer. You can contact your lawyer after we complete this stop. Right now, I need you to step out and perform a field sobriety test. Without? No, I'm invoking my rights. Refusing a sobriety test will result in automatic suspension of your license. Do you understand? Do you know who my mother is? Garcia's voice stayed calm. Ma'am, step out of the vehicle. You're making a huge mistake. Call your supervisor. Seriously, you don't want to do this. Garcia, step out now, or I'll be forced to remove you. Don't touch me. Garcia opened the door. Savannah pulled back. Get your hands off me. This is assault. You're under arrest for suspicion of DUI and refusal to submit to testing. You're going to regret this. My family will bury you. The video continued. Backup arrived. Savannah pulled away twice. She tried to close the car door. Officers had to physically guide her into custody. The footage ended. The courtroom was silent. Caprio looked at Savannah. That's not what you said? Savannah's voice came out quieter. I was scared. You told an officer she'd regret arresting you. You threatened her career. That's not fear. That's intimidation. I was within my rights to refuse. You were. But refusal has consequences, and threatening an officer is a separate issue. Lawrence Chen stood up. Your Honor. My client was exercising her Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Counselor, the Fifth Amendment protects you from testifying against yourself. It doesn't allow you to threaten law enforcement. We're prepared to argue that my client's statements were made under duress. Duress? She was sitting in her car. A police officer was demanding she exit her vehicle without probable cause. Weaving, speeding, and the smell of alcohol constitute probable cause. Chen opened his mouth, then closed it. Caprio continued. Miss Reyes, is there anything else? Yes, Your Honor. We have a call log. Go ahead. Miss Reyes pulled it up on the screen. Call log, April 14th, 2027, 11:58 p.m. First call placed to Providence Police Department Administrative Line. Caller, Savannah Prescott. 12:14 a.m. Second call placed to Officer Garcia's supervisor. Prescott Media Group Legal Department. 12:31 a.m. Third call placed to Municipal Court Clerk's Emergency Line. Caller, Lawrence Chen, attorney. Caprio studied the log. 3 calls within 90 minutes of the arrest. All from your family or your attorney. Savannah leaned forward. My mother was worried. I called her from the station, and she immediately called the police department to pressure them. To get information. Information or interference? I don't control what my mother does, but you benefit from it. Savannah didn't answer. If you've ever had a bad day turn into a disaster, you know what's coming. But she doesn't. Not yet. Caprio turned to Miss Reyes. Play the voicemail from the legal department. Voicemail. April 15th, 2027, 12:14 a.m. A male voice, professional, measured. This is Daniel Rourke from Prescott Media Group's legal team calling regarding the detention of Savannah Prescott. We're requesting immediate supervisor review of this arrest. Ms. Prescott is a valued community member, and we believe this matter can be resolved without formal charges. Please contact us at your earliest convenience. Any public filing of charges will be viewed as escalation, and we'll respond accordingly. The message ended. Caprio set his glasses down. We'll respond accordingly. That sounds like a threat. Chen stood. Your Honor, that was a routine legal inquiry. Counselor, routine inquiries don't include warnings about escalation. We were advocating for our client. You were pressuring the system. We were protecting her rights. Caprio leaned forward. Mr. Chen, your client refused a sobriety test, threatened an officer, resisted arrest, and then her family attempted to make it disappear within 2 hours. That's not advocacy. That's obstruction. Chen sat down. Savannah's face had gone pale, but her voice stayed steady. Your Honor, I made a mistake. I was scared, and I reacted poorly, but I'm willing to pay the fines and move forward. Move forward? Yes. I'll pay whatever's required. My family is prepared to cover all costs. Caprio stared at her for a long moment. Ms. Prescott, do you think money fixes this? I think it resolves it. Those aren't the same thing. What do you want from me? I want you to understand what you did. I refused a test. That's not a crime. You threatened an officer. You resisted arrest. You used your family's influence to avoid consequences. That's not one mistake. That's a pattern. Savannah's attorney whispered something to her. She shook her head. I've apologized. I'm willing to pay. What else can I do? Caprio looked down at the file, then back up. Officer Garcia, when Miss Prescott threatened you, how did you feel? Garcia paused. Honestly, I felt like it didn't matter what I did. If I arrested her, I'd be punished. If I let her go, I'd be failing my duty. She made it clear that her family's power outweighed my authority. Did you believe her? In that moment? Yes. Why? Because I've seen it before. People with money and connections don't face the same consequences. Caprio nodded slowly. Thank you, Officer Garcia. He turned to Savannah. Miss Prescott, what Officer Garcia just described is corruption. Not legal corruption. Social corruption. The kind that rots systems from the inside because people like you believe rules don't apply. Savannah's jaw tightened. I never said rules don't apply to me. You didn't have to say it. You demonstrated it. By asking for my lawyer? By threatening an officer? By having your family call within the hour? By sitting here now, offering money instead of accountability? I am being accountable. No, you're trying to buy your way out. Savannah stood up. With respect, Your Honor, I think you're letting personal bias. Sit down. Cloud your judgment here. I made a mistake, but, Miss Prescott, sit down. You're treating me differently because of my family. Caprio's voice stayed calm, but something in it changed. Bailiff Torres, please approach the bench. Torres walked forward. Miss Prescott, Caprio said, you've been warned multiple times to sit down and stop interrupting this court. You've refused. You're now in contempt. Savannah's face went white. Excuse me? Contempt of court. Bailiff, take her into custody. You can't be serious. Torres moved toward her. Savannah stepped back. Don't touch me, Miss Prescott, Torres said quietly. Please turn around and place your hands behind your back. This is insane. You can't arrest me for standing up. You're not being arrested for standing up, Caprio said. You're being arrested for contempt. You were warned. You continued. Lawrence Chen shot to his feet. Your Honor, this is excessive. My client, your client, has shown repeated disregard for this court's authority. She's in custody until she can demonstrate respect for the legal process. Savannah's voice cracked. You're doing this because of my family. I'm doing this because you've left me no choice. Torres reached for her arm. Savannah jerked away. Touch me, and I'll sue you personally. Torres stopped and looked at Caprio. Your Honor? Caprio's voice stayed level. Miss Prescott, you're making this worse. Cooperate with the bailiff or face additional charges. Savannah's breath was coming faster now. Her eyes darted around the courtroom. People were recording on their phones. This is going to be all over the news. You know that, right? My mother will... Your mother isn't here. You are. And right now, you're choosing to resist. Torres stepped closer. Savannah raised her hands defensively. Get away from me. Ma'am, turn around. I said get away. She shoved Torres. Not hard, just a push. But the courtroom gasped. Caprio stood up. That's assault on a court officer. Bailiff, you're authorized to restrain her. Tell us in the comments if you've ever seen someone's bad day spiral this fast. Torres moved quickly. He took Savannah's arm, turned her, and placed her hands behind her back. She struggled for a moment, then seemed to realize it was over. The handcuffs clicked. This is a mistake, she said, voice shaking. You're making a huge mistake. Miss Prescott, Caprio said quietly. The only mistake here is yours. Torres guided her toward the side door. She twisted back to look at her attorney. Lawrence, call my mother. Now. Chen was already on his phone. The door closed behind her. The courtroom stayed silent for a moment. Then someone coughed. Someone else whispered. The spell broke. Caprio sat back down and looked at the file. Mr. Chen, your client will be held in custody until her arraignment on the contempt charge. That hearing will take place tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. In the meantime, the original charges remain active. Your Honor, I'd like to request bail. Denied. On what grounds? Your client just assaulted a court officer in my courtroom. Bail is denied. Chen's face went rigid. I'll be filing a motion to dismiss. You're welcome to try. Court is adjourned. The gavel came down. Holding cell. April 15th, 2027. 1:47 p.m. Savannah sat on the bench, still wearing the designer clothes that now felt absurd. The cell was small, clean, sterile. She'd been in there for 3 hours. Her hands were shaking. The door buzzed. A guard appeared. You have a visitor. Savannah stood up quickly. My attorney? Your mother. Catherine Prescott walked in. 58 years old. Expensively dressed. The kind of woman who commanded rooms without raising her voice. She looked at her daughter for a long moment. Sit down, Savannah. Savannah sat. Catherine stayed standing. Do you have any idea what you've done? Mom, that judge is insane. He arrested me for contempt, for resisting, for assaulting a bailiff. I've seen the footage. It's already online. Savannah's stomach dropped. What? Someone recorded it. It's going viral. Rich girl attacks court officer. That's the headline. I didn't attack anyone. I pushed him away. On camera, in a courtroom, after threatening the judge. Savannah's voice rose. I didn't threaten. You said your lawyer would destroy him. In what world is that not a threat? I was trying to make him understand. Understand what? That you're above consequences? Savannah went quiet. Catherine sat down beside her. I've spent 3 hours on the phone with every contact I have. Judges, politicians, media executives. Do you know what they all said? Savannah shook her head. They said Judge Caprio is untouchable. He's been on that bench for 40 years. He's beloved, and you just made yourself the villain in a story where he's the hero. So what do I do? Catherine looked at her. You stop fighting. You apologize. You take whatever sentence he gives you, and you learn from this. I don't need to learn anything. I need to get out of here. Catherine stood up. Then you're on your own. Mom, I'm serious, Savannah. I've spent your entire life cleaning up your mistakes. I'm not doing it anymore. Not this time. You're going to leave me here? You put yourself here. Figure out how to get yourself out. Catherine walked to the door and knocked. The guard let her out. Savannah sat alone in the cell. For the first time in her life, nobody was coming to save her. Arraignment, April 16th, 2027, 9:03 a.m. Savannah stood before Judge Caprio again. She'd spent the night in a holding cell. No makeup, wrinkled clothes, hair falling out of its twist. She looked smaller. Caprio reviewed the file. Miss Prescott, you're charged with contempt of court and assault on a court officer. How do you plead? Lawrence Chen started to stand. Savannah put a hand on his arm. I'd like to speak, Your Honor. Caprio looked at her. Go ahead. Savannah took a breath. I plead guilty. Chen's head snapped toward her. To both charges, Savannah continued. I was disrespectful. I was threatening. I put my hands on Bailiff Torres. I was wrong. Caprio studied her. Is this a strategy, Miss Prescott? No, Your Honor. It's the truth. Why the change? Because I spent last night in a cell thinking about what I did, and I realized something. What's that? I've spent my whole life believing my family's name would protect me. But it doesn't protect me. It just keeps me from facing reality. The courtroom was silent. When Officer Garcia arrested me, I wasn't scared of her. I was scared of being treated like everyone else, like someone who has to follow the rules. When heaven manger, I patperty the buddy seds. When heaven manger, when heaven major seds, when heaven manger seds, when heaven major seds, when heaven major seds, when heaven major seds, when Officer Garcia, she paused. And when you held me in contempt, I wasn't angry because you were wrong. I was angry because nobody's ever told me no before. Caprio leaned back. What do you think should happen now? I think I should be sentenced for what I did. No deals, no family favors, just whatever the law says. You understand that could mean jail time? Yes, Your Honor, Chen whispered urgently to her. I understand. Caprio was quiet for a moment. Miss Prescott, I've been on this bench for 4 decades. I've seen thousands of people stand where you're standing. Most of them make excuses. Very few take responsibility. He paused. The contempt charge carries up to 6 months. The assault charge carries up to 1 year. Combined with your original charges, you're looking at significant time. Savannah nodded. However, Caprio continued, I don't think prison is what you need. I think accountability is what you need. He looked down at his notes. Here's my sentence. For the contempt charge, 30 days in county jail, suspended, pending completion of a compliance program. For the assault charge, guilty plea accepted, sentence deferred, pending behavior review. Savannah blinked. I don't understand. You're not going to prison. But you're not walking away either. You're going to spend the next 6 months proving you meant what you just said. How? 200 hours of community service. Not at a charity gala or a fundraiser. Real work. You'll serve it with the public defender's office, helping people who can't afford lawyers. Savannah nodded slowly. You'll also write formal apologies to Officer Garcia and Bailiff Torres, not 2 sentences. Real apologies that demonstrate understanding. Yes, Your Honor. And you'll attend a restorative justice program every week for 6 months. I will. Caprio leaned forward. Miss Prescott, I'm giving you a chance. Don't waste it. I won't. If you complete this program, your record will show successful rehabilitation. If you don't, you'll serve the full sentence. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor. Good. Court is adjourned. The gavel came down. 6 months later. October 2027. Savannah walked into the public defender's office. She'd been there 4 days a week for the past 6 months, filing paperwork, making calls, helping people navigate a system she'd never had to think about before. Her supervisor, a woman named Maria Santos, looked up from her desk. Savannah, I need you to help with intake today. We've got 12 people waiting. On it. Savannah spent the morning talking to people who couldn't afford attorneys, people facing eviction, people with traffic violations they couldn't pay, people terrified of the system. She recognized herself in some of them. The fear, the desperation. At lunch, she sat in the break room and pulled out her phone. The viral video from her arrest had 4 million views. The comments were brutal, but underneath, there was a new video. Rich girl returns to court. You won't believe what happened. She clicked it. It was her completion hearing. Judge Caprio reviewing her work. Her supervisor testifying that she'd been reliable, compassionate, changed. The comments on this video were different. Okay, I didn't think she'd actually do it. Character development. Judge Caprio doesn't just punish people, he fixes them. Savannah closed the phone. Maria walked in. Your hours are done next week. What are you going to do? Savannah thought about it. I'm going to keep coming. As a volunteer? Yeah. If that's okay. Maria smiled. It's more than okay. Final hearing. October 18th, 2027. Savannah stood before Judge Caprio one last time. Miss Prescott, Caprio said, you've completed all requirements of your sentence. Your supervisor speaks highly of you. How do you feel? Grateful, Your Honor, and embarrassed about how I acted. Embarrassed? I've spent 6 months meeting people who face real problems, people who can't call their family for help, and I realized how much I took for granted. Caprio nodded. What did you learn? That privilege isn't just about money. It's about whether you have to face consequences, and I never did, until now. And now? Now I know that respect isn't something you demand. It's something you earn. Caprio smiled slightly. Miss Prescott, your sentence is complete. Your record will reflect successful rehabilitation. This case is closed. Thank you, Your Honor. One more thing. Yes? I saw you're volunteering at the public defender's office. I am. Why? Savannah thought about it. Because when I was in that cell, I realized something. My family's name didn't matter. My money didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was whether I was willing to change. And I met people who don't get that chance, so I want to help give it to them. Caprio set the file aside. Miss Prescott, I was hard on you. Do you understand why? Yes, Your Honor. Because I needed it. Not just that, because I saw potential. People who can't learn don't change. You learned. Savannah's throat tightened. Thank you. Don't thank me. Thank Officer Garcia. Thank Bailiff Torres. Thank everyone who gave you a second chance. I will. Good. Case closed. The gavel came down softly. Savannah walked out of the courtroom. Torres was standing near the door. They made eye contact. He nodded. She nodded back. Outside, her mother was waiting. Savannah. Mom. They stood there for a moment. I saw your completion report, Catherine said. I'm proud of you. Really? Yes. You did something I couldn't do for you. You grew up. Savannah smiled slightly. It wasn't fun. Growth never is. They walked toward the parking lot together. But at the car, Savannah stopped. Mom, I'm not riding with you. Why not? Because I'm taking the bus. I've been taking it to the public defender's office for 6 months. It helps me remember. Well, it helps me remember. Remember what? That most people don't get picked up. Catherine looked at her daughter for a long moment, then nodded. I'll see you at home. Savannah walked to the bus stop. An older man was waiting there, struggling with grocery bags. Need help? She asked. He smiled. Thanks. She carried his bags onto the bus. Behind her, the courthouse stood quiet in the afternoon sun. Inside, Judge Frank Caprio wrote a note in the closed file. Respect is earned, not inherited. He set it aside and opened the next case. The system turned, indifferent to names, responsive only to truth. If this story showed you something about accountability, hit subscribe to All Rise. We cover Judge Caprio's most powerful moments every week. And tell us in the comments, have you ever had a moment that forced you to change? Share your story below. Sometimes, the hardest lessons are the ones we need most. Thanks for watching.